And thank you for joining me. I'm joined this time by Jack Canfield, author and co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm fine, Marco. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm so honored to be here. You're one of my coaches and mentors. You've really been an inspiration to me. And you recently launched your new book.
Yes, this is a 10th anniversary, revised, updated, I think about 200 extra pages of the success principles, how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Wow, that's amazing. And so what's new in this book?
Well, there's 200 new pages. I think there's several things that are new. Number, when we added the chapter on leadership, which we didn't have before, there's a chapter on networking by Dr. Ivan Meisner, who created Business Network International. There's over 6,500 chapters around the world teaching people how to network. And so he's the world's expert on that. We added 3 chapters at the end of the book on success in the digital age. So when this book came out in 2005, we didn't have the same amount of emphasis on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all the crowdsourcing and crowdfunding that can be done online now. How to make sure you protect your digital image in the world, your social media image. A lot of people end up putting stuff out they never should put out that never gets erased anywhere. So it's important. How do you build a brand? How do you develop a YouTube channel? How do you take advantage of the TED Talks that are out there? So there's a lot more resources available to us now than there ever were before. And also we want to make sure you take advantage of them. Like just for example with crowdfunding, I tell a story in here about a guy who created something called the Coolest Cooler. You know, when you go to the beach, you take a cooler, it has beer or soda in it. Well, he built one that has a little blender on the top so you can make margaritas. His has speakers in it so you can put your iPhone on.
Where can I buy that?
See, exactly. That's what everyone said. And so he when he first went on there, he didn't raise enough money. He came back and he learned how to do it right by putting a video on it. We know that video sells better than just print. And he raised over $10 million. $10 million in several months. And now he has all these orders from everywhere around the world. I bought 3 of them.
Really? You did?
If you gave him so much money now, he could then get the prototypes made, the production made. And so I thought, I'm going to give one to my 2 sons and one to me. And so that's cool. But that wasn't possible. Entrepreneurs couldn't get funding before. Now you can go on. There's all kind of you-funded sites for nonprofit issues, for if you have a medical catastrophe that you can't afford, if there's some microloans for people in Africa. So that's there. And then the other thing that's different, Marco, is I'm in fact most proud of, and I think makes the book so much more extraordinary. The first time we did this book, all the stories illustrating the principles in this book, and there's 64 of them, now there's 67. They were stories of famous people. So you'd read it and you go, oh yeah, Donald Trump can do that, or Michael Dell can do that, or Bill Gates can do that, but I could never do that. Now we've got stories by people who were living on Skid Row, people that were in rehab centers, people that were in homeless shelters, who read this book, like their sister gave them the book, and then they read it, and by the time they got to the 3rd chapter, they went, oh my God, I can create the life I want. They started using the principles. One of the guys, Logan Dowdy, he was an alcoholic. He was in this rehab center, and he read it. And first he said, how can I relate to a guy in a suit? He can't know anything about me living on the street. But he read the book and he realized, I really want to teach martial arts. I really want to have a landscaping business. And so now he has a landscaping business. He's teaching self-defense to women, empowerment workshops. Forrest Willett, who you know, was up in Canada. He was lying in bed after a severe automobile accident, brain injury, couldn't read at the 3rd grade level anymore, and totally depressed and given up on life. And I happened to be in Toronto doing a workshop, and I was giving an interview in the morning, and he happened to hear it. He said, right after this break, we'll be back with Jack Canfield, who'll teach you how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it perked him up because he didn't want to be where he was, but he didn't know how to get out of it. So he had his wife buy him this book. The speech therapist said, you never read a book like that. You'll never be able to read like that. And he read 1 page a day. And after that, by the time he got to the 3rd chapter and realized he was playing victim, he got out of bed. He started playing with his son. He started going out again. He worked with his speech therapist. He got to the place where he could speak, where he could walk again and do all these things. And now he's a motivational speaker going out, not only helping other people with traumatic brain injuries, but doing inspirational talks all over Canada. So all the stories now are stories of people who read the first book, just ordinary people, but who are now doing extraordinary things. So it makes it much more believable that anybody can do this.
I love it. I love it. So I wish you great success with this book.
Thank you.
The Success Principles. You got to get it. You got to read it. every page, not just one chapter. It's a matter of reading all the and working all the principles, not just one or a couple.
Working all of them. And can I tell one more story?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so another story that's in here, one of my favorite stories is John Caleb was living in the Philippines, in Manila, and I was over there doing a workshop, one-day workshop. And the night before, I did a book signing in the mall of my first edition of this book. And at the end of it, this guy comes up and he says, "Can I interview you for the local newspaper?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So as they were closing up the bookstore, he was interviewing me. And at the end of the interview, I said, that's the best interview I think I've ever had. It was about a half hour long. And he was just fun. He asked good questions, and they followed up well and so forth. And I said, "How long have you been doing this?" He said, "You're my first interview." And I said, "Get out of here, John. That's not possible." I said, "How is that?" He had owned a restaurant with two other guys. They got into a big squabble, and the restaurant went bankrupt because they just couldn't make it work. And so he was his girlfriend left him because he had no money. He sold his car to get money to live on for a couple of months, but he ran out of that. He was couch surfing, meaning he was sleeping in friends' apartments on their couches. And I said to John, "How much money do you have in your pocket right now?" He said, $3.28. That's my total cash in the world. So I gave him $20. And I said, and I bought a copy of the book from the bookstore because I didn't even have a copy of mine to give it to him. So I bought a copy, gave it to him, and I said, good luck. So I come back to the Philippines a year later, about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And I'm doing an all-day workshop, and in walks John. I didn't recognize him at first. He was wearing a beautiful blue blazer and gray pants. He had this big gold emblem on the pocket. There was about 8 or 9 guys walking behind him, all wearing polo shirts like you're wearing right now. But there was the logo of the same thing that was on his jacket. It was his entourage of trainees and supporters and assistants in his company. And he was wearing gold Doc Martens shoes, which was really cool. And I said, "Are you the guy that interviewed me last night?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You don't look like the same guy." He said, "I'm not." I said, "So what's going on with you?" He said, "Well, I have become the Philippines' #1 motivational speaker. I am now making over $1 million a year." He said, "My workshops have anywhere from 600 to 1,000 people in them. I'm now known as the money magnet in the Philippines." And he said, "I have my own radio show. I have a book coming out. I own 2 condos, one at the beach and one, in town, and a boat." And
in 1 year, all of this in 1 year.
Well, it was about a year and a half. Yeah, a year and a half. And I said, "John, how'd you do that?" He said, "Well, when I left that night, I had your book in my hand, and I said, that guy's a multimillionaire. He's doing really well. His family's happy. He's got a beautiful wife. He travels all around the world. He's healthy." And at that time, I was about maybe, how old was I? Probably 65, and I looked like I was 50. And he said, "That guy's life is working. My life's not working. I'm going to do everything in this book for 1 year. I don't care what it says. I'm just going to trust it and do it." And he did. Now, I don't know anyone that I've ever met that did every single thing in this book for a whole year. But he said, "But at the end of the year, my life was extraordinary. I had my own company. I was on the radio. I was being interviewed in the newspapers, doing really, really well. Now he's a multimillionaire, doing super well, and all because of this book." So this book can transform your life. But I always say the principles always work as long as you always work the principles. So it does work.
Right. Well, Jack, thank you so much. Fantastic. And again, great success.
My pleasure.
The success principles. Thank you.